Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Blake Oliver, and I'm talking today with Dr. Josh McGowan, director of the William H. Carr School of Accountancy at Troy University. How you doing, Josh?
I'm awesome. I appreciate you having me on, Blake. Thank you.
Dr. McGowan, is the CPA exam broken?
That is a great question. I put up a post that gained some traction and have a lot of feedback on. I think, maybe I was a little bit too dramatic, but there's definitely some major concerns with it. The pass rates are extremely low. It is probably the biggest thing that is affecting students nationwide. And then there's also been
Yeah,
a
those
lag
pass
time.
rates, I got to highlight those.
Yeah.
FAR, 36, 37%. Audit, 43, 44%. Regulation, 60%. Like, how does this compare to the previous exam?
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. Far as I went back 15 years, and that was the lowest quarter. And this is the stats you just read out were Q4 pass rates, but they're pretty similar throughout all of 2024. And that 36% was the lowest quarterly pass rate for FAR in the past 15 years at least. That one definitely jumped out because one thing we heard over and over again with the exam was, and just going by the blueprints, what's on each section is a lot of the I would call tougher material from FAR moved into something, one of the disciplines called bar. So we honestly, I expected FAR pass rates to be higher than the average, and now we're getting the lowest we've had in 15 years. And then just kind of going down the list, audit is also extremely low. And to me, that's not a good sign. I don't know if it's you could say you go with student quality, you could go with the changes in the exam, but FAR and audit are really the backbone of what CPAs do.
Right.
You don't have to be a CPA to do taxes and things, but the financial and auditing is really the core of what a CPA is.
And we should probably define some of these acronyms for folks who are
Yeah.
not as familiar with the CPA exam. FAR meaning financial accounting and reporting. Audit, obviously auditing and attestation, and then taxation and regulation. And then what does BAR stand for? I forgot.
Me too.
Oh,
I drew a blank. It's
business analysis and reporting. There we go. We call it the acronym so long we forget what it actually means.
Yes,
Um,
but a lot of people explain bar as kind of the next level of financial accounting. It's like level
right.
two almost.
Okay, so FAR and audit, like those are the core of like being an accountant, right? Making financial statements
Right.
and then auditing those financial statements. And the pass rates have always been lower for those sections. But like this is extremely low, right? I mean, they used to be in the 40s, 50s, is that right?
Yeah. That's
Now we're
perfect. You're right
now
on.
now we're like FAR is like in the 30s and audit is like low 40s. So you thought that FAR would see higher pass rates when material moved to bar from FAR to bar, but that hasn't happened. So like, why has it gotten like why have the pass rates gotten lower?
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the comments were people blame student work or not student, but test taker work ethic and things of that nature. And I don't agree with that. I think to me, it's too big of a coincidence that as soon as so if you haven't kept up with the CPA exam, any of the listeners, January 1st, 2024, a new model rolled out, and it was entitled the CPA Evolution. Previously, there was four sections: financial, audit, regulation, and BEC, which was business concepts. And now there's three core: FAR, audit, and regulation, and then test taker gets to pick one of three other disciplines. And so it's to me, it's too big of a coincidence that the pass rates changed so dramatically as soon as the new CPA exam rolled out. And I mean, there's not much difference in student quality, I think, or test taker quality from 1 year ago to 3 years ago to
Right. Why would that have
right,
changed? That doesn't make sense.
right,
Accounting
right.
programs have, I mean, there was actually criticism of accounting programs for not changing enough for the new
Right.
exam, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the exam that changed the most. So yeah, what is it? Is it that they've just made like the new exam made FAR and audit more difficult?
That's a great question. From feedback, students aren't allowed to discuss individual or test questions or anything of that nature. I've heard I've heard some feedback that the exam prep companies do not seem to be doing a very good job of providing information that also shows up on the exam, especially, the multiple choice questions everybody seems to be comfortable with, but the
Right.
simulations have caused some issues, it sounds like. And so that might be part of it, that, it just takes a little while. I still don't fully understand why we changed the CPA exam. I understand the reasoning to keep up with technology and things of that nature. I don't know if I completely agree with getting people to select one discipline.
Right. So you're talking about that fourth part of the exam, right? Instead of all of us being required to take business analysis and what do we call it again? Business analysis and reporting. There's options to take information systems and controls, which is focused on technology, and then tax compliance and planning, which is, I guess, an additional section that is tax compliance planning for individuals and entities and includes personal financial planning. And the pass rates for those are wildly different, right?
Yes.
For bar,
Shocking.
the old, bar section, which we keep, but it's changed a little bit. It's like super low, low 30s, 34%. So that makes sense. If they took more difficult material from FAR and put that in bar, that bar would be harder. But this tech TCP, the tax compliance and planning one, the pass rate's 72%.
And Q1 it was 82%. Which is
82%. That's incredibly high. Is that because they made it really easy? Is that because people are really motivated to take that one?
I that's a great question. I think one part of it could be there's a lot of test takers out there that do taxes. And maybe, you could say, okay, well, they're doing better because they've done this in practice and so forth. But to me, I mean, when you're talking about high 70s, mid 70s to 33%, the big issue is now everybody that takes it is going to start taking TCP, just simply because of the pass rates. To me, if I was sitting for a CPA exam right now, there's no way I would choose bar at a 33% pass rate. And I hope that wasn't the spirit of what this was supposed to be. Especially because, nobody ever knows which one you took. It's not
Right.
public knowledge. It's not on your certificate. It's
Oh,
just
they
kind of a
don't put the
secret.
section? They don't put that fourth section on your certificate or they don't. Interesting.
No. And an employer is not, it's personal information that only, of course, you can share it, of course, but, only you know that. So yeah, I don't really even understand
What's the
what,
point of that then? I thought originally it was going to be disclosed or
that's a great question. I don't fully have an answer to. I have a get. I guess I kind of have is maybe one day we do get to, maybe it's leading us down the path to where we have like a audit financial CPA.
yeah.
And they have to take bar, or we have a tax CPA that has to take TCP or something of that
I
nature. But
mean,
as of right now, it's kind of a mystery.
to me, that makes a lot of sense. In general, I have not been in favor of this idea of creating like a ton of different types of CPAs. But in this, I agree that there are people like me that never want to touch tax, but love financial accounting and also want to know auditing, even though, you may not actually do it, right? But those two things make sense. Putting the financials together, auditing the financial statements, like that's an area. You never have to touch tax to do that. And then there's this whole world of CPAs who like just want to do tax. So maybe just have,
Yeah.
two exams, right? One that's focused on tax and one that's focused on, financial statements.
And I know you talked, I've seen quite a bit of your content about, auditing prices and things of that nature. That could drive a little more value to those CPAs that have that designation.
Yeah. And it's some states already have the CPAs that don't do audit, right? I was licensed in California. I never had to get audit hours. So if you already have that set up, why not just let people specialize in tax? They can be a tax CPA. I mean, we could even just call it that. Really simple, right? I'm a tax CPA.
And that might solve some of the kind of pipeline problem as well,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people end up not becoming a CPA because of FAR on the CPA exam or
Yeah.
audit. Reg is usually around 60% pass rate.
Well, this is just speculation looking at these numbers, but I wonder if the reason that taxation and regulation and TCP, tax compliance and planning, have such high pass rates is because people are really motivated to learn that material, because a lot of students just want to go into tax,
Yeah,
right?
that is very true. And maybe their first year of work or second year of work, all they've done is tax, and
Yeah.
so that information clicks. And,
There is that whole pipeline, right? And like that's like there's two pipelines really, right? We got the one that pushes students into audit at large firms, and then we've got the one that pushes students, grads, into tax practices at regional and smaller firms.
yes, yeah, I think
Yeah.
you spot on with that. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. The big thing to me is with the current model, I think what we're discussing is really an interesting option, and has a lot of benefits. Of course, there's probably some disadvantages, but right now, where nobody knows which discipline you take, and the difference in pass rates, you just have people who've a majority of test takers are pretty young that have never done really a lot of tax or audit, and they're just saying, "Hey, I'm gonna take TCP because it's easy." And I'm never going to take bar because I got a 3 in 10 chance of passing it.
See, that's what we're missing from this data, though, is like, is it actually easy, or is it just that people are self-selecting into topics that they're actually interested in and therefore are passing because they paid attention in class and they worked hard and they want to know this material, as opposed to I just have to do it because I've got to get my license. I really wonder, like, how could we figure that out? If I was at NASBA, I would want to do like a survey before every CPA exam that asks students, like, what are your career aspirations? What do you intend to do after you pass the exam? Like, that wouldn't be hard to do. Just take a few minutes, right? Don't time them on it, right? It's before the exam starts.
And they already do collect some information because, for example, we get reports of our average, how many hours the average test taker has, like higher ed hours. I
Yeah.
think we're right around 130, 133 hours is typically when somebody's sitting for the exam.
So at your school at Troy, where do your students tend to go? Do they go into audit? Do they go into tax? Is it a blend?
We're pretty close to 50-50. Most of our students are going to go into regional firms or smaller than regional local firms, but we
Mhm.
also place a lot of people into industry and governmental agencies, local, state, local. Um, and pretty much all of our firms let them experience at least tax and audit, like during an internship or during their first year. And then I think typically they make their own decision which way they want to go.
I would love to see the exam. I mean, we're almost there with the way the exam has been broken up. They just need to take it one step further in order to really
Yeah.
make it more meaningful. And maybe these pass rates will get them to do that. Tax exam focusing on tax regulation compliance, and an exam focusing on financial statements, audit, all that stuff. Well, maybe we'll get there someday. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
like I said, it seems to be leaning that way, if I had to guess, but I have no clue.
any other thoughts about the new exam?
Yeah, well, first, I know you have been a strong proponent of getting rid of 150 hour. So congratulations. I don't think any of us kind of would have happened without the publicity you've brought to it, and really just kind of you've been I don't know if fighting for it's the right word, but really promoting it for a few years now. And I do of course have some concerns about pass rates and making sure people are prepared and not getting taken advantage of by employers and things of that nature. But it's very obvious that our profession, especially the practitioners, wanted to move in that direction. And so, I'm fully on board. And I've already told our students here, we haven't there's no legislation in Alabama yet, but I've already told them it's probably coming. So, we need to have that discussion and see what's best for you. But yeah, I guess you asked kind of a simple question. Anything about the exam? That's my biggest worry as we
Yeah.
move forward. Is we have a lot of students go straight into not here at Troy, but other places go into employers where they're not going to have the time and things to study and really take the exam. And I'm scared some of them are going to get used for their labor,
Yeah.
and not really their
Not
career.
not finish the exam, not take it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, my recommendation to students who ask me is like in the places where they're moving from 150 to 120 so they don't have to go get the master's. I get a question a lot of the time is, well, what do I do? Do I just go straight to work? And I say, no, I think you are better off taking 6 months to a year and just focusing on that exam and work part-time while you do it, because you can't study all day. But don't kill yourself with a full-time job and taking the exam at the same time. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at least the firms, a lot of the major firms that recruit at Troy are they're kind of. I spoke with a partner the other day, and he said, it's turning from your responsibility to our responsibility, and we have to take that seriously. And allow them the study time and everything they need to the resources, all that great stuff. And so I'm hopeful, and like I hope it has, pays huge dividends for our profession. And I think, we'll see in a few years. And like I said, I've said it a couple times, the current 150 hour, it's indefensible. The random 30 you can take, and, you could take it in community college, you could take jogging class here at Troy. That was, it was never a good idea. And I don't think anybody would defend it. You can't defend it. It's undefendable.
Well, one of the defenses of 150 has been basically to ensure the enrollment in accounting programs, in these master's programs that are developed. Like, I think one of the concerns is if there's no requirement for the extra year of education, will students do these degrees? But it sounds like you're not really concerned about that.
I I mean, I do have some concerns. I won't say I won't. It's definitely there will be Mac programs closed down across the nation. I think, especially the online Mac, strictly online, where people are just doing it really for the credit hours. But it's like anything. If you can't provide value, if you're not providing the actual value, I don't think we should exist because some lawmakers decided, CPAs need 150 hours.
Yeah.
We get, if I can sit there and say, hey, if you come to Troy, here's our pass rates on the CPA exam compared to the average. Hopefully that's where we build our value.
Dr. McGowan, it's been great chatting with you. Let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Blake. I appreciate it.